Shalom, shalom. Welcome back to Wisdom and Torah Ministries. This is part 2 of the Torah, of the Parashat Bereshit. Remember, we're covering the Parashat Bereshit. I pray that you enjoy that first half, the first part. We are covering a lot of information. Now we're going to read the text, okay? We're going to go and get off the first verse and start covering the whole chapter. We're going to make some connections as we go along. It says, when the earth was astonishingly empty, with darkness upon the surface of the deep. It says, the divine presence hovered over the surface of the waters. Elohim said, let there be light, and there was light. God saw the light was good, and that Elohim separated between light and darkness. Elohim called to the light and day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening and there was morning one day. Now this is very important. Okay, we got to consider. We got to start connecting all these connections here in the parasha. You know, light was created, but we got a problem. You know, how come light was created when in fact the sun was created on the fourth day? This is one of the biggest mysteries in Judaism. That, you know, mysteries in the Torah as it is, that we don't know why what light is it talking about. I believe it is Messiah. You know, because it says, when I go back to the first verse, second verse, and when the earth was astonishingly empty with darkness upon the surface of the deep, the divine presence hovered over the surface of the waters. Do you know, the ancient sages of Israel believed that it was the spirit of Messiah who hovered over the waters of the sea. Very significant, because later on you're going to see Yeshua walking on the water. So it's very significant. The Shekhinah, he is called the guardian of Israel. So we're making all of these connections. Now, let's go to verse 6. Elohim said, let there be light in the midst of the water, and let it be separated between water and water. And Elohim made the firmament and separated the waters between the waters and were beneath the firmament and the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. Elohim called the firmament heaven, and there was evening and there was morning a second day. Now let's connect that with the second day of creation. Second day of creation with the 2,000 years of humankind. The first 1,000 years says, you know, going to 2,000 years, there was judgment. That first day there was judgment on the earth. Remember? You know, there was Noah's time, there was judgment on the earth. So here we see, before Abraham came in the picture, that he was already born into the 3,000 year era. So you go from 0 to 1,000. From 1001 to 2,000. That's already 2 days. So we go from 0 to 1,000. Okay, or we go from 7,000 down to 6,000. That's 1 day. So I hope you understand where I'm coming from. Second, you know, it says on the second day, he's dividing the waters from the waters and the earth from the earth. You see this pattern in the story of Noah, in which the waters, there has not been raining up to that point, and the rain comes, and then all of a sudden now you have what? You have a separation from the canopy that was on the heaven, which the rabbis, not the rabbis, but scientists, creationists, they say that the earth used to have a canopy around it that maintained the whole earth cool. And not only that, but you know, they believe that Adam was waken up by the music that will come from light. You know, you have frequencies. All the planets have frequencies. The earth has a frequency. The moon has a frequency. They also have music to it. So we see that there's a lot of things that we need to learn when we study the Torah portion, you know, that is connected with creation, that is connected with all the wonderful works of Yahweh as we go through here. So the third day says, Elohim said, let the waters beneath the heavens be gathered in one area, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. Elohim called the dry land earth, Eretz, and to the gather on the waters he called seas. And Elohim saw that it was good. Elohim said, let the earth sprout vegetation, herbage yielding seed, and fruit trees yielding fruit, each after his own kind, containing his own seed on the earth. And it was so. And the earth brought forth vegetation, herbs yielding seed after its kind, trees yielding seed, each containing a seed after its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good, and there was evening and there was morning, a third day. Now, this is the comparison that I want to show you. When you go to verse 8, it says, Elohim called the firmament heaven, and there was evening and there was morning a second day. But he didn't call it good. He didn't call it good. It wasn't until there was separation of the heavens and the earth. In other words, of the heavenly realm, the sky, the waters, and there was land, and they bear seed and fruit, then it became good. Okay? Now this is very peculiar because there was not really any rain at that time. As far as we understand, there was a dew that will come down, and that will basically take care of everything that happened. That we know of. I'm pretty sure there was something that was there that was maintaining the fruit and the seeds, because they do need water. But it's very peculiar because, they tell you, this creationists, they say that the original high pressure, oxygenation of the oxygen on the canopy, on the heavenly realm, on the earth at the time of Adam, was like 38% oxygen. It's incredible. By the way, they believe that you can run 25 miles and not get tired. The book of Isaiah talks about that you will run and not get tired. And then scientists believe that if at that particular pressure, that you can cut yourself and you'll be healed within 24 hours. And by the way, this is why football players, they have what is called a hyperbaric chamber. And especially the fullbacks and, the quarterbacks, they get all beat up, they go into the hyperbaric chambers. Or the Navy SEALs, when they go too deep and they come up too fast in the water, they put them in a hyperbaric chamber, which oxygenates your body, and then you can become back to health. By the way, I do go to one of them here nearby my house, and it's fairly inexpensive considering the benefits of it. Alright, so now we have the fourth day. Elohim said, "Let there be luminaries in the firmament of the heavens, and to separate between the day and the night, and they shall serve as signs, festivals, as for days and years." And this is why we have the fourth day, in which you have what is called the moon, the sun, and the stars. Okay, for festivals, for moedim, for the feast. Now, right now, there's a big controversy in the Hebrew roots movement in regards to the moon, to the conjunction, to that. I'm not going to touch on that. I'm not even going to go there, because you know what? I just want to teach Torah. I don't want to get into controversies. But I know that the moon is the one that will signals the moon, and that was practiced in the first century during the temple service, period back then by the Sanhedrin Council. After the destruction of the temple, the Samaritans would light a fire on the night before or too early, and let everybody know that the renewed moon started, which caused a lot of problems because they were causing confusion when the Sanhedrin Council was not supposed to do it in Jerusalem. Then after that they moved to Yavne and they did it from there, and then the Hillel calendar came up. So anyway, so as we continue to do this, give me 1 second because I'm still looking at my computer. And I'm looking for certain things here because I got to use the computer program. So as we go along and we start comparing the days and the nights, he calls it the fourth day. Now, in verse 15, "And they shall serve as luminaries in the firmament of the heaven and shine upon the earth." And it was so. And Elohim made the two great luminaries, the great luminary to dominate the day, which is the sun, and the lesser luminary to dominate the night, and the stars. And Elohim set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, to dominate day by day, and by night, and to separate between the light and the darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good, and there was evening and morning, fourth day. Many people are going around saying that the day now begins in the morning. Well, he established the foundation. Evening, and then there's day, and then there's morning, fourth day. Okay, now other people are saying that only evening and the morning is one day. So I don't know, there's big confusion going on. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to do what the Bible says, evening and the morning. So the next day begins at sundown. When the evening comes in, that's the next day. So that's how it goes. Now this is very peculiar because on the 4,000 year from creation, if we come from creation and we go all the way down, let me go back to the third day, okay? I kind of overlooked this. On the third day, something particularly happened. Let me read it again, okay? Sorry, let me go back here again. This is what happens when you study the Torah verse by verse. On the third day, we see that you have herbs yielding seed, fruit trees yielding fruit, each of its kind, containing its own seed on the earth. Now this is really interesting because if you start counting from creation, we're going to connect now the third day to the 3,000 years of humankind. On the third millennia from humankind, counting from creation, all the way down, you come in the picture. Who? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And there's called the seed of Abraham, the seed of Isaac, and the seed of Jacob, and they gave much fruit. Remember, Brad does incredible jobs about the seed, the principle of the seed. Please go and get that teaching. It's an outstanding teaching. It'll teach you. This will make a lot more sense to you if you understand his teaching on the principle of the seed. And what is really interesting is that the Bible talks in agricultural terms. So, Brad, I'm going to take some of your stuff here now. The Bible does speak. This is one of the themes in Scripture. Agricultural terms. So therefore you start finding out the language of the Creator. It's about a house. Okay, I already told you in Bereshit, the first letter is the bet. It's about a house. I'm the head of the house. Moving away from the house, the garden in Eden, and then going into the world and turning back from the principles of Yahweh. Well, here on the third day you have the seed, and then you have Abraham, you have Isaac and Jacob. And out of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob you have the seed, which is Israel. And then they are going to take the world over. We know that. Now the fourth day, returning back, you have the luminaries. You have the moon, the suns, and the stars. And if you go back and you start counting from creation, again, on the 4,000 years, okay, in the history of Israel, who do you get? You get the prophets, you get the judges, you get the kings, and then you get the Messiah. And Messiah, Yeshua, was born. Many people argue, well, when was Yeshua born? He was born in the year 1 before Common Era, or 3 before Common Era, or 5 or 4, well, I don't care as long as it's before the Common Era. Why is that? Because we know that Yeshua is as the light of the world. Okay, he's the ultimate luminary. So therefore now the prophets, the judges, and the kings were doing that time frame, and the Messiah was born towards the end of 4,000 years. This is what the birth of Messiah, in this sense, is very important to give us a connection to the Bereshit in the creation week. Now, as we go to the fifth day, I hope this is making sense to you. We still have a lot of area to cover, and I'm trying to not necessarily cover every little bitty verse, every bit of a little word. But I already did that in Bereshit, the first verse, and I needed to cover that right away because I wanted you to get a deeper understanding of what it was talking about. Okay, this thing will not finish doing the job. Anyway, the fifth day, verse 20. Elohim said, "Let the waters teem with teeming living creatures, and fowl that fly about over the earth across the span of the heavens." And Elohim created the great sea giants and every living being that creeps, which the waters teemed after their kind, and all the winged fowl and every kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. Elohim blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the sea. But the fowl shall increase on the earth." And there was evening and there was morning the fifth day. So what happens on the fifth day? Fifth day, now you have the fish of the sea, right? And you have the birds, you have the fowl. But this is really, really interesting. In Jeremiah chapter 16, there is a prophecy. And this will take us a long time, so I just want to basically whet your appetite so you can go back and you can do research. This is the way I teach the Torah. I want to entice you. I want to help you understand some principles, and something catches your attention, you go back and you study that out, so that way you can benefit from it. In Jeremiah 16, there is a prophecy, very important prophecy in regards to our hope and our redemption. Jeremiah 16 verse 14. "Therefore, behold, the days are coming, says Yahweh, that it should no more be said, Adonai lives, who brought up the children of Israel from the land of Egypt. But Adonai lives, who brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, from all the lands where he had driven them. For I will bring them back into the land, and I will give them to their fathers. Behold," listen to this, "behold, I will send many fishermen, says Yahweh, and they shall fish them. And afterwards I will send many hunters, and they shall hunt for them every mountain and every hill out of the holes of the rock." Now, this is very important. Why is this? Because Yeshua, the first thing he does, he selects who to be his disciples? Fishermen. You follow the connection? You got fishermen to be his disciples. Do you think he's trying to bring you to pick fishermen to be his disciples just for the heck of it, just because he found those guys look humble enough, let's pick them. He's trying to show, by selecting the right people, how he's bringing forth the fulfillment of the children of Ephraim. Remember that he started his ministry in the Galilee, and in the Galilee he began to look for the lost tribes of the children of the lost sheep of Israel. You know, the sheep of the lost. Let me read this again. Oh my Lord, too much stuff going on in my brain right now. Probably laughing at me. This is how I am when I study. I'm a nutcase. I keep things all over the place. It says in Matthew chapter 15, verse 24, and he answered and said, I was not sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Well, who are the sheep of the house of Israel? They're the sons of Ephraim. Ephraim and the 10 tribes. Remember now, let's go back to Bereshit. We're going to cover that later on during the year. But right now, let me make that connection. Connected with the 5th day of creation. Because the fish, they multiplied in the sea, right? But it's very peculiar that Ephraim, it is told in Genesis chapter 46. In Genesis chapter 46, verse 18, I believe. And I hope I find it right away, because I really want to make mention of this. In Genesis 46, if not, you know what I'm talking about, because he is blessing the children. It's actually 47. When Jacob is blessing Manasseh, and he is blessing Ephraim, something very peculiar happens there. He crosses his arms, and he blesses the younger over the older. Now, what does that mean? Well, let me take it from a sod perspective. There's 4 levels of understanding in the methods of study. You got the Pashat, which is the literal, Remez, you have the Drash, and you have the sod. And here we're going to go into the sod, which is the mysterious. When Yeshua says, I show you, when Rav Shaul says, I show you a mystery, he's talking about, let's go into the deeper meaning of the text. What is the sod here? That Ephraim means multiply and be fruitful, while Manasseh means be made to forget. So if you're going to give the blessing to Manasseh, which means made to forget, then they're going to be forgotten. Because in Hebrew, names mean things. They mean something. So therefore, he crosses his arms, and he blesses Ephraim, that means multiply. And it said that he will grow into a multitude. The word there for grow means daga in Hebrew, which means fish. So fish multiply rapidly. So the word daga and the word grow are one and the same. They're pronounced the same way. So here you see that the children of Israel are going to be multiplying like the fish of the sea. And all of a sudden Yeshua, who is the Messiah, who is that prophet, who was born at the end of 4,000 years, and he's coming on the 5,000 years, the 5th day from creation, to gather the fish that are on the sea. Yahweh told the children in creation week that they will multiply in the sea. So here we see the children of Israel, they were dispersed all over the whole Persia Empire, Babylonian Empire, all those empires, and they multiplied and they lost their identity. So therefore now you need fishermen to go gather the fish. Who are the fish in this context? The descendants of the children of the house of Israel. How are you going to do it? With a net. And the scripture tells us in the Brit Hadashah, 1st century writings, Yeshua said that the net is the gospel. The net is the good news. Very significant. Did you get that? You're with me now? Okay, I hope I'm doing a good job. I hope you're pleased with the way I'm teaching you, because I want to provoke you. I want to throw information at you, so therefore you can be challenged to continue to study. Alright. The 6th day. Elohim said, Let the earth bring forth living creatures according to its kind, animals and creeping things and beasts of the land, each according to its kind. And it was so. Elohim made the beasts of the earth according to its kind, and the animals according to its kind, and every creeping being of the ground according to its kind. Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, let us, this is something, I remember, let me read you the verse first and I tell you the story. Let us make men in our image and our likeness. And I remember when I was sitting in the yeshiva, and all of a sudden a person, a gentleman, asked the question, Rabbi, who is us? Who is us there in that verse? And I remember the rabbi saying, I don't even want to go there. It was the funniest thing. because the answer lies in chapter 2, verse 1, but anyway, we're not going to go there. Now, this is really an important verse here. What I have holding in my hand now is called Onkelos, is the Targum. Okay? If you don't have this, I highly recommend you get one of these. You get 5 volumes based on the Torah. The way that I study, I open the scriptures that has the Brit Hadashah, I open the Targum, and I open the Chumash. Okay? I have 3 books in front of me, and I'm reading from 3 different texts. But if you speak only Hebrew, all you need is this. This book right here that is called the Tikkun, that it has, doesn't have the Brit Hadashah obviously, but it has the way you learn how to do the Hebrew, read the Hebrew Nikud, the little point of vowel points, but it also has the Targums right over here on the side. Now, why do I mention this? Because many people don't know what the Targums are. The Targums is the Aramaic paraphrase of the Torah. You got the Targum Onkelos, you got the Targum Jonathan ben Uziel, you got the Talmud of Jerusalem, the Jerusalem Targum, and those Targums are paraphrased, and Onkelos, which is highly regarded in Judaism. In other words, any book that I have behind me, they will quote you Onkelos, they will quote you the Targum. Now the Targum is like a paraphrase, and in some places where it says, when it appears that it mentions Yahweh twice, you know, Yahweh said to Yahweh or whatever, you know, you see that in the text. By the way, I have a PowerPoint that is called Who is the Member of Yahweh? You can get the whole teaching there. So, what is very peculiar, that if you're not going to see it, but if you see here, is, hopefully you'll be able to see it in the video, but it's I marked it. Okay, it's yellow. Let me read it to you. An example. This is chapter 3. We haven't gotten there yet. But I want to show you an example of what they say. In verse 8, they said, they heard the voice of the Memra of Yahweh, Elohim, moving about the garden, okay? In the cool of the day. Now, this is very important. Why? In some places where you find the word, for example, in this case, is, and Adam heard the footsteps of the Lord walking in the cool of the day. Well, in the Targums, in the Aramaic, it tells you, and Adam heard the footsteps of the Memra. Memra means Aleph Tav. Aleph Tav means Shekinah. Okay, and the Shekinah is the Word, and the Word is Yeshua. In other words, and they heard the word of the Lord walking in the cool of the day. So here John is giving you this understanding in John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word. Wait a minute. In the beginning was the Memra in Aramaic. In the beginning was the Davar in Hebrew. You see, in the beginning was the Logos in Greek. So you're making all of these connections. And this is very important, because ancient teachers of Israel understood that it was in the image of the Memra that Adam was created. And in the Jerusalem Targum, it tells you on this verse in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 says, and Elohim said, let us make man in our image and our likeness. But in the Jerusalem Targum says, let us make man in the image of the Word of the Lord. In other words, it's telling you that Adam was created in the image of the Memra, the Word of Yahweh. Very important. Why is this? Because Paul later on tells you that death came by the sin of a man. In other words, Adam, right? So therefore, life, a quickening of life. Life come by the last Adam, a quickening of spirit. So it's letting you know, by the way, in rabbinical circles, this is called Adam Kadmon, the primordial man. Rabbinical Judaism teaches, not all the branches, but the majority of them, they teach that Adam was created in the image of Adam Kadmon. Now, Adam Kadmon is called the primordial man. It says, basically, it can't be in the image of the Father, because the Father has no image or form. No one can behold the Father. So, in whose image did He create him? In the image of the Memra, in the image of the Word of Yahweh, which later on is revealed to us as Yeshua Mashiach. That's what John is trying to let you know. And that's what Paul is trying to convey to you in the letter to the Colossians. The identity of Messiah from the beginning. Okay, let's continue. I think I covered that. And I'm giving you different resources, so I want to be able to go from there. Now, it says in verse 26, They shall rule over the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, over the animals, the whole earth, every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. And Elohim created man in his image. In the image of Elohim he created him, and male and female he created them. But in the Targum, remember, says, it would read like this. So Elohim created man in his image. In the image of the word of Elohim he created him. That's huge. That's significant. Can you imagine sitting, Yeshua in the first century, sitting in the synagogue listening to the Torah portion? He's just minding his own business in the back. Just listening to the Torah portion, and then they're reading the Hebrew of Bereshit, and it gets to this verse, and then they will read the Aramaic too. You see that in the book of Ezra and the book of Nehemiah. When they came from Babylon, they would read the Torah, but then they would explain in their own language in Aramaic, and that's what Onkelos did. Okay, so now, can you imagine Yeshua is listening to this verse in verse 26, and then they read the Aramaic, and it says, the Memra of Yahweh. Can you imagine what he says? Yeah, that was me right there. Yeah, I was there. That was me. Yeah, that was me. You know, and this is, I hope you're enjoying yourself, because I'm having a great time. You know, I'm just sharing Torah with you, and I'm just blown away that I keep learning new things as I'm doing this. Verse 28. And Elohim blessed them, and Elohim said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, and rule over the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, every living thing that moves on the earth. And Elohim said, behold, I have given to you all herbage yielding seed that is on the surface of the earth, every tree that is seed yielding fruit, and it shall be yours for food, and to every beast of the earth, to every bird of the sky, and to everything that moves on the earth, within which there is a living soul. Every green herb is for food, and it was so. And Elohim saw that all that he had made, and behold, it was very good, and there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. So on the sixth day, what do you get? You have men created having dominion and being multiplied, and having dominion over the whole earth. Now we cover, the third day, you have the seed of the fruit, right? Then you have the prophets. Then you have the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. On the fourth day, you have what? You have the luminaries. You have the sun, the moon, and the stars. And then in the 4,000 years from creation, we have what? We have the prophets, we have the judges, the kings, and the King Messiah. On the fifth day, what do you have? The fish of the sea will multiply. By the way, what was the only thing that was not cursed during Noah's time, Noah's flood? The seas, the fish. Okay? Now, on the sixth day, now we have what? We have here the promise that men will multiply, and that they will rule and reign over the whole earth, and that they will conquer everything. Now, let me put this in perspective. The 6,000 years. The last 1,000 years, we are living in the end of 6,000 years. In this last 1,000 years, we have more people on the earth right now than any time in the history of the earth. It has multiplied literally 1,000-fold here. We have 6.7 billion people on the earth. I don't think we will get to 7,000. So let me get this straight. We are on the 6,000 year from creation. Yahweh said that men will multiply, and they will rule, and they will basically, they would just take over. They would just base every creeping thing, everything. Okay? They will be over animals and the whole earth. We have conquered almost, there's no place on the earth that has not been scouted. Very few. The Amazon is one of the few places, but you can see it from satellite now. Okay, so you at least know what it looks like. We've gone to the deepest places on the earth. I mean, we just saw it with the oil spill. What happened? They can go down almost a mile down, and they can work down there. They can extract oil. They can cap a well. They can do all kinds of stuff with no hands of men, just by computerized equipment. That's amazing to me. Okay, we got more people on the earth, truly on the 6,000 years of creation, keeping in track with the promise of Yahweh that on the sixth day men will have dominion of the earth, have dominion of the animals of the whole earth, just like he told Adam he would be. See, remember that the word Adam can mean humanity, okay? So when you read here, it says Vayomer Elohim, okay? Nase Adam Besalman, okay? Besalmenu, I'm sorry. So it says Adam. The word Adam can also mean humanity. Not only just a man, but also humanity. So this is a twofold prophecy here that the Creator is doing to us. Amen? Okay. So here is giving us the authority to do this. Now, this is the exciting time. The exciting thing, we're going to go now to chapter 2. All of this, an hour and a half, only in chapter 1, okay? In chapter 2, and listen, I am not covering everything. I'm leaving a lot out. Okay, but I think it's imperative that I establish a foundation by covering really well chapter 1, verse 1 of Bereshit. That way you can establish a foundation and the credibility of our Creator, which He doesn't need any, but for some reason, some people, they seem to need it more than anybody else. Okay. In chapter 2, now we've covered the first 6 days of creation. We have the evidence that prophetically is connected to the 7,000 years of humankind. Let's go to chapter 2, verse 7. Chapter 2, verse 1 talks about the 7th day. We have not entered into the 7th day. Now the 7th day of humanity, which is 7,000 years, that is called the millennial reign. That is called the great Sabbath that Hebrews talks about. Okay? That's the Sabbath. In other words, when we practice observing of the Sabbath, we are rehearsing what's going to happen in the millennial reign, in which He's going to give us the double portion. He's going to protect us. There's going to be peace. We are going to rest. And He will rule over us. He will teach us His Torah. We will hear from Yerushalayim the words of the Torah. And that's the teaching on the 7th day. So if you don't want to celebrate the 7th day, fine. But don't expect to get into the millennium and do all those things. Now, I'm not saying that if you don't keep the Sabbath, you're not going to be saved. That's not what I'm saying is. But you know what? If you have a wedding and you don't show up to the wedding rehearsal, your bride is not going to be very happy, is she? So right now, the Sabbath is a feast. It's a moedim. Now, the word moed in Hebrew has a root word. The root word is ya'ad. And the word ya'ad can mean betrothed. So when you keep the feast of Yahweh, not the feast of the Jews, but when you keep the feast of Yahweh, you are in fact showing the whole world that you are betrothed to the Creator of heaven and earth. Oh, that's got to be exciting that He's calling us out of darkness. He's calling us out of idolatry. He is redeeming us. He is sanctifying us. He is cleansing us. He is equipping us with His heart. And then He tells you, listen, I want you to take a few days off. I want you to just hang out and chill out with me. I want you to just hear my instructions. I want you to fellowship. I want you to show the world by keeping Sabbath and the feast that you're betrothed to me. Okay, this is the teaching on the 7th day. Let's continue. This is a revelation in chapter 7 about the resurrection of the dead. We have 6,000 years, but we know that on the 7,000 Messiah will come, and then we will dwell with Him for 1,000 years. We know that. And then we will live forever. And we're not going to die. That's basically what it tells us. So, how do we explain this? In chapter 2, verse 1, you get a clue. You get the clue, and you get a very important key to know what this context is all about. It says, thus the heavens and the earth were finished. Okay? When you read this, then you know the context of what it's saying. Okay? Very, very important. The word finished there in Hebrew means v'yekulu. Okay, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but I'll work on it. Here we go. Vaikala. Vaikal. Okay? Now the root word of the word finish is kala. And the word kala can also mean bride. So you have the root word. Remember that I showed you that in Hebrew you have root words? So when I'm looking at my Bible program here, I want to show you what it says, and you won't be able to see it, but I want to make sure that I'm on the correct here. That when you work and you look into this, you understand that He is going to determine that on the 7,000 years, that when He says finish, the root word means kala, which means bride. In other words, He is going to restore His bride back to us. So let me go here real quick, put interlinear here. The word kala, you see? The word kala there in the Hebrew can mean very different things. It's a Strong's 36:15. It can be finish. Okay? can mean different things, but the root word can also mean kala. Okay, in other words, the kuf and the lamed can make up another word kala. So, you have the same parallels here. So could it be possible that this is a prophetic picture that the Creator is letting us know that on the 7,000 years when Messiah will come, He will gather His bride, and those who are dead in Messiah will resurrect first. He will blow upon our nostrils the breath of life. Okay, and then we will resurrect and we will dwell with Him. And then we will rest on the great Shabbaton, on the great Sabbath. Are you with me now? This. I hope this is making sense to you. This is really important, okay? Because once here we go. It says on first verse, vehicle. There we go, vehicle. The first word in Hebrew, vehicle. Okay, and he finished. The word there can also mean kala. Okay, the root word is the root word of kala. So the word finish and the word kala, which means bride, it has the same root word, which there is a connection. This is how you get connections later on. So this is how I believe that chapter 2 is talking about the restoration of those who are resurrected from the dead. The resurrection from the dead is a huge, huge concept in Judaism. The second prayer on the Amidah, okay, is about the faith in Yahweh to keep covenant, that He will be powerful to resurrect the dead. Okay, so we know that He does do that. Alright, let's continue in verse 8. Listen, I pray that you're enjoying this. I really do. And if you send me emails, please, and you have questions, keep it to a minimum, maybe 1 or 2. Don't make it very long, because I get a lot of emails and sometimes I won't be able to get back to you. So, if you're enjoying it, send me an email, let me know. If you're not enjoying it, then don't send me an email, please. Let's continue. Verse 8 of chapter 2. Yahweh Elohim planted a garden in Eden. You see what I mean? The garden in Eden. Not the garden of Eden. The garden in Eden. It says, Yahweh Elohim planted a garden in Eden to the east, and placed there the man whom He hath formed. And Yahweh Elohim caused to sprout from the ground every tree that was pleasing in the sight of good for food, also the tree of life in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and bad. Let me stop there for a minute. Let me retrace my steps here. And he says, and He placed a garden to the east. I believe that garden is Jerusalem. I believe the garden is Jerusalem. The garden was placed in Jerusalem. I believe that's what it was. Let me tell you why. Because when Adam sinned, he was expelled out of the garden eastward. When Cain sinned and he killed his brother, he was sent eastward. When Lot left Abraham, he went eastward to Sodom. When Judah disobeyed the Torah, they went east to Babylon. When the 10 tribes of Israel disobeyed the Torah, they went northeast. And when Yeshua died on the Mount of Olives, taking the sin of Israel, He went eastward to the Mount of Olives, and He was looking from the Mount of Olives west to where the temple was. And that's another teaching in itself, and I don't have time to get into that one right now. So let me continue on this, okay? Now, verse 10. A river issued from Eden to water the garden, and from there it is divided to become 4 headwaters. Now, this is important because many people believe that it's modern day Iraq, that it was the Garden of Eden. It's impossible. There's no way. Did you know that there is a that there is a huge water reservoir underneath Jerusalem right now? Okay, and there was one river, and out of that one river, then 4 heads came out. So let me continue reading. The name of the first is Pishon. I believe that's the river that goes underneath Jerusalem. Remember, we had the flood, and the flood changed the whole typography of the earth. Okay, I believe it did the same thing in Israel. Okay, one that encircles the whole land of Havilah, where gold is. The gold of the land is good. The Bedolat is there, and the Shohan stone. The name of the second river is Gihon, the one that encircles the whole land of Cush. Okay? The name of the third is Hidekel, the one that flows towards the east of Assyria. And the fourth is the river Euphrates. So we have a big area there. Some of them have been dried out by now. They're going underwater. But I believe that the Pishon is underneath Jerusalem. And that's why when Messiah, it talks about that, you know, that when the Lord puts his feet on Mount Sinai, on Mount of Olives, that the land, the Mount of Olives will split north to south, and there's going to be water gushing out, and it's going to do a mikvah of the land. It's going to do an immersion of the land and sanctify the land, and then after that we're going to see what's going to happen. But that's the Pishon. Many people, I believe incorrectly, thinks that it's in modern day Iraq, and I don't believe that. Okay, let's continue. Verse 15. Yahweh Elohim took the man and placed him in the garden to work it. Listen to this, to work it and to guard it. That's the duty of man. To work and to guard it. Okay? To guard the garden. That's all he had to do. Everything's there for him. He had food. He had protection. He had substance. He had everything, get water for him. All he had to do is protect it and guard it, and he did not do that. Yahweh Elohim commanded this man, saying, of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of knowledge, good and bad, you may not eat thereof, for on that day you eat it, on the day you eat of it, you shall surely die. Now pay attention to that, because later on we're going to cover what Eve did, and how she says, well, you know, the Lord says if we look at it, you know, no, he said only if you eat of it. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Verse 18, Yahweh Elohim said, it is not good that man be alone. I will make him a helper corresponding to him. Now, Yahweh Elohim hath formed out of the ground every beast of the field, every bird of the sky, and brought them to the man, and to see what he will call each one, and whatever the man called each living creature, that remain its name. And the man assigned names to all cattle, and to all the birds of the sky, and to every beast of the field. For as for man, he did not find a helper corresponding to him. Now, if you really want to know something really interesting, look into the names of the animals in Hebrew. And you know, a lot of those names have survived from the time of Adam, obviously. You know, Adam did it very peculiar. He saw what they did. He watched them. He studied them. He says, okay, you know, I'm going to name them this, because the name in the Hebrew outlines what he does. Let me give you an example. A dog. Caleb, a dog. You know, Caleb in the Bible can mean Caleb. But the word Caleb can be broken down into two words in Hebrew. Korlev, all heart. So can you imagine, you look at a dog, and what is a dog? It's very loyal, it's very faithful. A dog, if you give him love to him, he is all heart to you. He'll do anything. He'll defend you. He'll be there for you. He will not leave your side. So Caleb in the Bible, in fact, his name can mean dog, but he wasn't a dog. He was all heart for the Creator. And this is why him and Ephraim, Joshua from the tribe of Ephraim, and Caleb was a Kenizzite who basically became part of the tribe of Judah. He was all heart for the Creator. That's very significant in prophecy. Alright, so it says, so Yahweh Elohim cast a deep sleep upon the man, and he slept, and he took one of his sides, and he filled the flesh in its place. Then Yahweh Elohim fashioned the side that he hath taken from the man into a woman, and he brought her into the man. And the man said, this time it is bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. This shall be called woman, Isha. From man was she taken. Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother, and cling to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. Echad, one flesh. And they were both naked, and the man and his wife, they were not ashamed. Now this is really important. It's a lot of information here. And I cover part of this in my teaching, What is the Gospel? Which I talk about the Basar. She will be Basar. In Isaiah 61 verse 1 says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me to preach the good tidings. And to preach the good tidings, the word good tidings or gospel or good news there in the Hebrew is Basar. So the word to preach, good news or gospel, is the same word as the Hebrew word flesh, Basar. You notice that the word basar is in reference to Eve. We are the bride of Messiah, the last Adam. Just like Eve came out of Adam, so shall we become one with Messiah. And that's what Paul is trying to let us know in his letters to the Romans. Okay? We are one with him. We are one flesh. Okay? So therefore, let me give you the example of what I'm talking about. You find that in Romans chapter 7. In Romans chapter 7. In Romans chapter 7, it says, "Oh, do you not know, brethren, for I speak to those who know the Torah, that the law has dominion over a man as long as he lives. For the man who has a husband is bound by the law to her husband as long as he lives. But if the husband dies, she is released from the law of her husband. So then if, while her husband lives, she marries another man, she will be called an adulteress. But if her husband dies, she is free from the law, so that she is no adulteress, though she has been married to another." Okay? It says, "Therefore, my brethren, you also have become dead to the law through the body of Messiah, that you may be married to another, even to him who has raised him from the dead, that we shall bear fruit unto Elohim." Remember? "For when we were in the flesh, the passions of sin we were aroused by the law, we're now members, and by the fruit of the dead." Now we have been delivered from the Torah, from the bill of divorce that kept us from the Father. Okay? "Having died to what we were held by, so that we shall serve in the newness of spirit and not in the oldness of the letter." I actually quoted you the wrong verse, but that's okay because it comes in part exactly what we're talking about anyway. See, by Yeshua dying, taking the penalty of adultery that belonged to Israel for their disobedience, remember, he wanted her back. That's why the Samaritan woman has 6 husbands, remember? And he's talking to the Samaritan woman. He wanted her back. So therefore here, when he dies, he takes the penalty of his bride. Do you know what he did? Yeshua did exactly what Adam was supposed to do in regards to the next chapter we're going to study. Adam was supposed to protect Eve from death and from any harm. And he did not protect her from the serpent. So Yeshua did exactly what Adam did not do. He guarded the bride. He took the penalty of death away from the bride, so when he resurrected, we can be gathered to him and become one flesh. Now, let me show you this, what I mean. Let me prove the point, and then we'll be done with this chapter. Yeshua takes the penalty of death. He dies on the tree. He takes the bitter water, the vinegar. He dies. In other words, Israel was guilty of adultery. They put a spear to his side, water and blood comes out. Yeshua goes into a deep sleep, just like Adam went into a deep sleep. Yeshua went to a deep sleep for 3 days. When Adam woke up, there's a bride. When Yeshua wakes up, the bride is restored back to him. That's the prophetic picture of Genesis with the death and burial and resurrection of Yeshua. Is the first Adam and the last Adam. The first Adam didn't protect his bride, the last Adam did. And he was willing to die on her behalf. That's why we are one with him. Just like Adam was one with Chava, with Eve, so is the congregation, Israel, the bride of the Messiah. Amen? So now what we're going to do, we're going to continue on part 3, and we're going to try to cover the rest of the verses from here. And we still got a lot of information, but I think it's imperative that we cover this correctly. We still have a few chapters to go to here, but let me stop here and let you chew on this for a while. I pray that this is a blessing to you, and I pray that you feel challenged to continue to observe the Torah and to keep observing and learning and studying. Remember, don't try to observe this all. I'm trying to cram in a few hours what I've learned in 12 hours, and I'm still learning every day. Amen? So what I'm going to do, we're going to take a break here, and we're going to come back to you in about a few minutes. Okay, so go get yourself something to eat and something to drink, and then come join me back to the wonderful works of the Torah. Shalom to you. We'll see you in a little bit. Bye-bye.